The next stop we'll make on our journey along the timeline of eternity will be to experience the events that followed the Big Bang. The time traveler is going to take us back in time to the birth of the subatomic particles and the formation of an ice lattice. Instead of dissipating like a cloud in our sky will break up and disappear, the remnants of the fiery gas of creation, hydrogen, were frozen for all time as they drifted off into the absolute 0 degrees of the virgin outer space in which the Big Bang took place. This superstructure, or crystalline lattice, then, is frozen hydrogen in outer space. Because this lattice formed over the substance of which our universe was made, it preserved the integrity of the atomic bits of matter. They were not destroyed, they were allowed to live and to start the process of evolution because of the protective crystalline lattice. At the implosion, when the two droplets fused, splatters of droplets were moved off from them, some before the fusion, which accounts for either negative or positive particles, and some even after they fused, which accounts for neutral or fused particles. They were drawn into the black hole of implosion, already being either male, female, or fused. They were then blasted back out in intense heat that crystallized them. This caused instant hardening into individual particles programmed for all time, locked inside of their beingness as either positive, negative, or fused energies. These are our subatomic particles, the protons, neutrons, and electrons, and programmed into them were the electrical impulses of vibrations that they were part of when the first two droplets of moisture came together. The subatomic particles evolved through many different stages of evolution. The movement of the particles followed the expanding and changing shape of the different universes. These patterns of motion are important because they lay out the pattern or shape of the crystalline structure of our elements. They are also important because there is a specific pattern to the vibrational content of electricity. These patterns are of the new electricity and are very important to understanding the new technology that makes up the projects in the science of music. The following patterns are of the new electricity, which must replace the old vibrational patterns of our current electricity. When the particles left the Creator and the first universe was formed, they were all in a spreading fashion. This was a double pie-shaped wedge connected at one end and not the other. This was the beginning of the division of positive and negative, although they remained connected. This would be a fan-shaped pattern. The next basic pattern found them in the shape of a circular pattern as an outgrowth of this first pattern. This found the detachment of negative energy and made for a positive particle. The third pattern found the negative energy following its own path and forming an upside-down T-shaped pattern. The fourth pattern followed a more complex path, that of positive and negative joined again. This left a neutral zone in the center between the positive and negative. The fifth pattern combined these areas into a spiking pattern. This was balance as far as negative and neutral balancing the positive. The sixth pattern was spiral, which achieved a balance of all three energies. The seventh pattern smoothed all this out into a pattern of perfection as far as not only balanced, but at last linear. All the other patterns had closed circuits or loops. This seventh pattern of our universe allows an open end for higher upgrades of patterns to continue evolution. The first upgrade pattern to be added allowed for delicacy or refinement to be achieved. This was once again a circular pattern, but combined with a spiral. The next took the triangular pattern and entered into a square with a triangle. This tone is unfamiliar. This is the start of broadening out the pattern for finer vibratory rates. This allowed for much inner space motion within the particle itself. This was flat inside. It had no depth or linear spread. The D-sharp E-flat and the following A-sharp B-flat tones are also much larger centered areas in which the particle may have movement. Both the D-sharp E-flat and the A-sharp B-flat are lower at the center, rising and widening at the same time. The science of music is used throughout the universe, but the higher planets are working on expanded scales. Earth is not and will not be able to be in tune with the universe until she is also working on the expanded scale. She cannot move forward to accomplish the expanded scale until all are in tune with Earth's 7-tone major or minor scale and the 12-tone chromatic scale. When the 12-tone chromatic scale was begun, it was divided in half, male and female, then into thirds, the Trinity, our mind, our past lives, and the universal mind. Now it is to be divided into fourths for synthesized man, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies, for the fourth dimension. Future restructuring of the human being can be seen by going into an expanded scale, which will add 3 tones, making a 15-tone scale divided into 5 sections for basing lessons on. Then by adding 3 more, making an 18-tone scale, the lessons will be divided into 6. By adding 3 more to make a 21-tone scale, the lessons will be divided into 7. The atom is a frozen drop of condensation made up of the tiny little droplets of vibratory rates, the subatomic particles, which are mixtures of all the vibratory rates. Some of them are positive vibratory droplets, some negative, and some are fused droplets of both positive and negative that happened at original creation. The fission of the explosion resulted in some cases of fusion. Varying degrees of size were also the result of this explosion. Not everything fused, but many did, and in all different size scale levels. The subatomic particles are the smallest size scale products of fusion, and the large suns in our universe are the largest examples of fusion. This is why they are capable of giving life, because they are fused male and female energies, therefore are prolific. Anything that is pure male or pure female vibrations will always be barren. Therefore, the process of life itself is fusion. The one atom that was left pure and whole and fused is smaller but more powerful than anything that expanded off of it. There were many splits off of the original atom. Those that were fused were the more powerful and expanded greatly because fusion will always be strength. These became the suns that were able to generate the strength or heat of fusion and continue to give birth to particles that begin to fill up all space. All the many suns are generators of particles. They are all givers of life to the universe. The attracting and repelling forces of the universe came into being and caused the very first subatomic particles that exploded out of the black hole to immediately rush or expand into the vacuum. As they did, the process of forming a skim of ice took place as they cooled in the outer reaches of space. Thus began the clumping together that formed an ice superstructure or lattice for the universes. As each pulsation of the explosion took place, this superstructure was pushed further and further out to the sides of empty space. It grew thicker and stronger and more densely frozen each time it was pushed further and further into the outer reaches. This formed boundaries out to the side of our universe. No matter exploded above or below the black hole. The bottom of the black hole, the bottom of our universe, in other words, is for all time leading into the black hole of condensed matter. This crystalline lattice that formed over the gases at beginning creation preserved the molecular action of the inert gases and separated them into enclosed units that all had a mixture of the primal gases in them. These mixtures then began a process of decomposition, you might say, and this led to the forming of the active gases. Even from the beginning of the universe, the process of evolution remains ever the same. The new is built upon the old in an upgraded form. Therefore, the inert gases are the basis of the new active gases that formed. The protective shell of the crystalline lattice was the cause of the birth of the inert gases. This lattice kept the gases of each particular facet from spreading. In other words, it set a limit of their expansion, thereby allowing or causing interaction between the gases and the light being reflected off of the lattice by the original explosion. This light eventually sank or collapsed into the black hole where the tiny, tiny original atom that came about because of the explosion is still churning forth its energy that is bubbling up out of this black hole for all time.